Let's talk about merger and acquisition negotiation techniques in this video. M&A deals are notoriously difficult to negotiate on due to the size of the deal and length of time needed, not to mention all of the stress that comes with such deals. More importantly, M&As are usually the pinnacle of a CEO's career. Many have worked their asses off before getting a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to finally sell their companies for a handsome profit through an M&A. Therefore, CEOs will do well not to blow the opportunity of an M&A. Due to the pressure that comes with negotiating an M&A deal, based on my experience as an entrepreneur, countless deals could have been negotiated better. Hence, I strongly recommend CEOs to hire professional negotiators to deal with such a complex project. In negotiating M&As, the most important thing is timing. A common misconception is to only start looking for a buyer when you wish to sell your business, but instead, you should always be on the hunt for potential buyers, especially when your business is doing well. Selling your business is all about timing, and the right timing depends on how much leverage you have. The more leverage you have, the better your selling terms and conditions will be. So when does an M&A begin? It actually begins before you officially commence negotiations with a potential buyer. It begins when you start reaching out to potential buyers, which you should be doing when your business is starting to do well. As I mentioned, in M&As, timing and leverage is everything. So, when is your leverage highest? Certainly not when you're desperately looking for a buyer. Before we continue on this video, I'd just like to tell you guys that I, the founder of Life Solvers, and my team of professional business negotiators have been appointed by top company executives and individuals before to provide professional negotiation and HR training and consulting. For more information, just look at the description and feel free to drop me an email or WhatsApp. Let's continue the video. In negotiations, as most of you probably know, leverage is at its highest when you know you are in a good spot financially and that you are not in a desperate position to cut a deal. However, most startup entrepreneurs or even experienced business owners make a mistake of being complacent. Most of them think that there is no need to hunt for buyers since they are doing well financially. In fact, over 90% of them do not have a good exit strategy, which is the ultimate downfall of most entrepreneurs. Unless you are 100% certain that you will never sell your business, you should focus a part of your valuable time in brainstorming ways and networking with buyers to build up leverage to potentially sell your business at a future date. So, the easiest way to gain leverage when selling your business, as you might have probably guessed already, is when you're not desperate to sell at all. Don't kid yourself into thinking that you can fake it till you make it when selling your business, since selling a business is a long process and experienced buyers and negotiators can always pick up on hints of desperation. The second way to gain leverage in M&As is not just about your business's finances, but framing negotiations in a way that your buyer has no choice to buy your business. You might be thinking, hang on a minute, nobody can be forced into a corner to buy a business. Well, try and put yourself into a buyer's shoes. Why would they want or need to buy your business? Don't forget, there might be businesses that are struggling financially or may have reached a bottleneck in their expansion. If you come across a buyer that falls into the latter category, you are more or less secured a good deal on your business. Reasons why businesses are stuck in bottlenecks could be down to, say, not having the connections, expertise, or technology to further scale their businesses. That is why it is vital that you don't just focus on your own business when negotiating M&As, but you should focus equally on doing research and investigations into the reasons why businesses are open to buying you out. You have to try and psychologically force your opponent into a corner and confidently convey the risks and consequences of not buying out your company. Based on my experience, there's always desperate buyers, but it depends if you have the care and time to identify such businesses. Let's talk about practical negotiation tactics when you actually identify potential buyers. Anchoring, in my opinion, is the make or break of any M&A deal. If you don't anchor the value of your business accurately, you will never get a good offer. To make a great anchor, you must obviously use numbers like financial statements and turnover to convince the buyer that you are worth what you claim to be worth. A tactic that I always use when discussing M&A deals is to always give out the first number, whilst erring on the aggressive side. If you give your opponent the chance to give out their first offer, the whole negotiation would then usually be decided on their terms, which you obviously must fight to your death to not let it happen. Also, undervaluing your company will never get you a favorable deal. It decreases the value of your company in the buyer's eyes, and some buyers might even walk away from the deal, fearing that your company is not what they anticipated to be. Don't be afraid of anchoring negotiations, but rather be afraid when you hand your opponent the initiative to lay out the terms and conditions. A second negotiation tactic in M&As is to set arbitrary deadlines to secure concessions. Let me give you an example about this. In China, a lot of crafty businessmen employ this tactic by setting up a symbolic ceremony to announce successful business deals. They then try and stall negotiations whilst emphasizing the importance of this ceremony, cornering their opponents in a way that they feel they have run out of time to secure a favorable deal. A lot of these opponents will then give in, fearing that they would lose out a great business opportunity. This is what you can do when negotiating on M&As. Letting the buyer know that you may need to respond to other purchase offers by a certain date, increasing the chances of a buyer to become more and more agitated as the arbitrary deadline looms. This normally leads to favorable concessions when you play your cards correctly, but obviously you mustn't threaten and overemphasize the deadline you have set. Another clever way to set arbitrary deadlines is to give out specific dates in which you will stop negotiating with any buyers and, by extension, stop putting your business for sale. Mention the reasons why, which could include further expansion plans that you have already put in place. This gives the buyer more of a reason to panic and think that they will be missing out if they do not agree to your M&A terms. A third negotiation tactic is a simple one to understand, but hard to execute. Be relentless in getting what you need. Due to human nature, we tend to soften our hearts and offer concessions when being handed concessions, or when we simply meet somebody who seems unrelenting. A great negotiator, unfortunately, to some extent, has to be a bit cold-hearted and narcissistic. Business negotiations are not the time to be friendly, especially when that is your business and your money at stake. You must go into negotiations with a mindset that you are there to ask for what you deserve. You shouldn't have to make a lot of concessions when you're simply asking for what you deserve. Do not feel pressured to have to concede anything, since it is your business and your right to keep holding on to it until somebody meets your terms. Being unrelenting can give out an impression to your opponent that you believe what you're asking for, which can even generate feelings of respect for you and your business. Giving up concessions can be a sign of weakness, and if you find yourself doing that, you should ask yourself if you actually believe what you're asking for at the first place. Finally, here are our recommendations for you. Having brokered businesses and advised on various M&A deals, good deals are almost never made over a few months, let alone overnight. M&As are long processes, and they do not only begin when negotiations actually officially commence. You should always be in the hunt for buyers, especially when you're not in a desperate position to sell. Lastly, always push for what you desire, since this is your own business at stake. Avoid bowing down to unreasonable demands from buyers, and you can avoid this by getting prepared to sell your business today. Thanks, and see you next time.